They struck Earth with 10 missiles. Humanity's response was worse. The stars bent and twisted as the Valorian warfleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. 300 ships materialized at the edge of Earth's solar system, their dark hulls blocking out the distant stars. Commander Thelva stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on his view screen. His scaled hands gripped the command rail with satisfaction. "Such a primitive world," he said to his second officer. "They barely have colonies on their moon. This will be easy." The Valorian Empire had been expanding for 2 centuries. They had conquered 47 worlds. Earth would be number 48. The intelligence reports were clear. Humans had only recently developed nuclear weapons. They had no shields, no plasma cannons, no real defense against an empire that had been traveling between stars for generations. Thelvis gave the order, "Launch the missiles." All 10 at once. Deep in the belly of his flagship, 10 antimatter missiles armed themselves. Each one carried enough destructive power to level a continent. The targeting computers locked onto the 10 largest human cities. The missiles launched in perfect synchronization, streaking across space toward the unsuspecting planet below. On Earth, the day had started normally. In Seoul, morning traffic filled the streets. Office workers grabbed coffee before heading to their jobs. Parents walked their children to school. The sky was clear and blue. The first missile hit Seoul at 9:47 a.m. local time. The antimatter warhead released energy equivalent to 1,000 nuclear bombs in a single instant. The city center simply vanished. A dome of white fire expanded outward at impossible speed. Buildings turned to vapor. Streets melted. People disappeared without even time to scream. The shockwave flattened everything for 50 kilometers in every direction. Then Tokyo, then New York, then London, Mumbai, São Paulo, Lagos, Sydney, Moscow, Cairo. 10 cities, 10 massive explosions. 60 million people dead in less than an hour. General Do-yoon was in his car when the missile hit Seoul. He had been driving to a meeting at the Ministry of Defense. His wife and 2 daughters were at home, right in the city center. He saw the flash in his rearview mirror, impossibly bright like a second sun had appeared on the horizon behind him. The shockwave hit his car seconds later. The vehicle flipped 3 times before crashing into a ditch. Do-yoon crawled out, bleeding from a cut on his forehead. He turned to look at his city. Seoul was gone. Where millions of people had been living their lives, there was now only a mushroom cloud rising into the sky. The heat was so intense he could feel it from 30 kilometers away. His phone was dead. The electromagnetic pulse from the blast had fried all electronics in the area. But Do-yoon was a soldier. He had been trained for disasters. He started walking toward the nearest military base, his mind refusing to accept what his eyes had seen. Around the world, the same scene played out. Survivors stumbled through ruins. Emergency services were overwhelmed. Governments tried to coordinate responses, while dealing with the fact that their capital cities had just been erased from existence. Then the message came. Every working screen on Earth suddenly showed the same image. Commander Thelvas, his reptilian features cold and cruel. His voice was translated by computers into every human language simultaneously. "People of Earth," he said, "your world now belongs to the Valorian Empire. We have demonstrated our power. 60 million of you are dead. This is your only warning. You have 12 hours to surrender completely. Disarm all weapons. Prepare for occupation. If you resist, we will launch 60 more missiles. Your species will be extinct by tomorrow. The choice is yours." The transmission ended. In the underground command center beneath what used to be Seoul, emergency power kicked in. The facility had been built to survive nuclear war. It had survived the antimatter strike, though just barely. General Do-yoon had made it there after 4 hours of walking. His uniform was torn and bloody. His face was covered in ash. The conference room was filling with other survivors. Admiral Minho had been at sea when Tokyo was hit. His fleet was intact. Director Hana had been in a secure facility when London vanished. She ran Earth's intelligence services. Dr. Jiwon had been deep underground at a classified research facility. She was the head of a project called Prometheus. Scattered screens showed quantum-encrypted video feeds from other survivors around the world. The remains of human leadership were gathering, trying to coordinate a response. One general from the American forces was arguing for surrender. "We have no defense against weapons like this. We need to save who's left. A Chinese admiral disagreed. If we surrender, we become slaves. Better to die fighting. Fighting with what? Someone else shouted. They have 300 warships. We have fishing boats with missiles strapped to them. The argument grew louder. Voices overlapped. People were scared, angry, desperate. General Doyen sat silently staring at the table. Someone noticed and asked him what he thought. He looked up. His eyes were completely empty of emotion. My wife was named Sora. My daughters were Yuna and Hyun. Yuna was 7. Hyun was 5. They were at home this morning. I will never see them again. The room went quiet. They gave us 12 hours, Doyen continued, his voice soft and cold. We only need 6. Director Hana leaned forward. What are you saying? Doyen turned to Dr. Jiwon. The Prometheus Project. Is it ready? Every person in the room who knew about Prometheus went pale. Dr. Jiwon's hands started shaking. General, those weapons, we sealed them away. The committee decided they were too dangerous. That was before today, Doyen said. Answer the question. Are they ready? Dr. Jiwon looked around the room. She saw the faces of people who had lost everything. She thought about what the Prometheus weapons could do, what they were designed to do. The ancient alien civilization that had built them had destroyed themselves, possibly with these very weapons. Yes, she finally said. They're ready. Admiral Minho spoke up. I don't know what Prometheus is, but I know that tone. What are we talking about here? Dr. Jiwon pulled up a holographic display. 6 months ago, we found something in the asteroid belt. Technology from a dead civilization. Among other things, we found weapons. Weapons that make antimatter missiles look like firecrackers. She showed them images, designs, technical specifications. With each new weapon she described, the people in the room looked more horrified. If we use these, someone whispered, we won't just defeat them, we'll traumatize every species in the galaxy. General Doyen pulled up images on his own screen. The 10 impact sites, the ruins, the bodies being pulled from rubble, the mushroom cloud still visible from space. Good, he said quietly. Then no one will ever mistake our mercy for weakness again. He stood up and walked to the authentication terminal. I am authorizing the use of Prometheus weapons under crisis protocol. We need 2 more command-level authorizations. Admiral Minho stood and walked to the terminal. He entered his codes. Director Hana hesitated, then did the same. The terminal screen turned green. Access granted, Dr. Jiwon closed her eyes. May God forgive us. God? General Doyen said. God isn't watching today, but the Valorians are about to learn what hell looks like. He pressed the activation button. In hidden facilities around the world, systems that had been dormant began powering up. Weapons that should never have been built came online. Humanity was about to show the galaxy something it had never seen before. Mercy had failed. Now came the monsters. They struck Earth with 10 missiles. Humanity's response was worse. Captain Hyun sat in the command chair of the stealth ship Silent Reaper, watching the Valorian fleet on his displays. The aliens had no idea his ship was there. Human stealth technology was based on the ancient designs they had found. It bent sensor readings around the ship, making it invisible to every form of detection the Valorians possessed. All systems ready, his weapons officer reported. Hyun looked at the fleet before him. 300 massive warships, each one bristling with weapons. Each one carrying 2,000 living beings who were just following orders from their commanders. He thought about Seoul, about his sister who had been there with her family, about her 2 children who would never grow up now. Target the flagship, he said. Fire when ready. The entropy accelerator hummed to life. It was mounted on the front of the Silent Reaper, a device that looked like a simple metal sphere. But inside that sphere, ancient technology manipulated the flow of time itself. A beam of invisible energy shot across space and struck Commander Thelvis's flagship. On the bridge of the Valorian command ship, Thelvis was reviewing surrender terms for Earth when his ship's alarm started screaming. Status report, he demanded. Sir, the hull is deteriorating. All sections reporting critical failures. Thelvis looked at his view screen in horror. The metal walls of his bridge were changing color, corroding before his eyes. Paint peeled. Metal turned to rust. Screens flickered and died as electronics aged centuries in seconds. What's happening? His second officer screamed. Then the officer's scream changed. His scales were wrinkling, turning gray. His body was aging rapidly. Delvas looked at his own hands and watched them wither. His scales fell off. His muscles weakened. He opened his mouth to give an order, but his teeth crumbled to dust. All across the flagship, 2,000 Valorians experienced their entire lives in fast forward. They grew old, they died. They turned to dust. The ship became a tomb filled with ancient skeletons and corroded metal. Captain Hune watched the flagship go dark on his sensors. Target the next ship. Continue firing. The entropy accelerator could only hit one ship at a time, but it worked fast. Every 30 seconds, another Valorian ship aged into a derelict hulk. The crews didn't even have time to send distress signals. They just died, confused and terrified. On the moon, Admiral Minho gave his order. Quantum disruptors fire. 12 platforms hidden in craters on the lunar surface activated. Energy gathered in strange patterns that human scientists still didn't fully understand. Then 12 beams of reality-breaking force shot into space. The Valorian defense fleet had moved to protect their colony ships. These massive vessels carried civilians, families of the soldiers, support personnel, 50,000 people per ship, 20 ships total. The quantum disruptor beams hit the colony ships. One moment, the ships were there. The next moment, they simply weren't. No explosion, no debris. The molecular bonds that held the ships together just stopped working. Atoms separated from each other. Matter returned to energy. 1 million Valorians ceased to exist in an instant. In the command center on Earth, a sensor officer stared at her screen in shock. The colony ships are gone. All 20 of them. There's nothing left. Not even particles. Dr. Jiwan felt her stomach turn. She had built that weapon. She had tested it on rocks and drones. But seeing it used on ships full of living beings was different. Continue the attack, General Doyen said flatly. The surviving Valorian ships finally realized they were under attack. Their commanders ordered an immediate retreat. The ships turned and began accelerating toward the edge of the solar system where they could enter faster than light travel. They flew directly into the causality minefield. The mines had been placed weeks ago by Dr. Jiwan's team, scattered throughout the most likely approach vectors. They were small devices, barely larger than a basketball. But inside each one was technology that violated every natural law. The first Valorian ship triggered a mine. The explosion happened backwards through time from the ship's perspective. Commander Veldan, leading the retreat, suddenly experienced his ship being destroyed. He felt the hull breach, felt the cold of space, felt himself dying. But he was still alive, still on his bridge, still giving orders. His mind couldn't process the paradox. The ship was destroyed. But it wasn't destroyed yet. But it had already been destroyed. Past, present, and future collapsed into a single moment of psychological torture. He started screaming. His crew started screaming. They were experiencing the timeline breaking down around them. Then the mine exploded in normal time, and the ship actually was destroyed. Ship after ship triggered the mines. The Valorian fleet dissolved into chaos. Commanders lost their minds from the temporal paradoxes. Some ships collided with each other as their pilots went insane. Others just drifted, their crews catatonic from the experience of dying before death. How many ships left? General Doyen asked. 43 functional vessels, came the response, but only 23 are still combat capable. The others are drifting. Launch the neural plague. Deep beneath a mountain in Switzerland, a missile bay opened. A single sleek missile rose on an elevator. This one didn't carry explosives. It carried something much worse. Dr. Jiwan had designed the plague herself using genetic samples from Valorian corpses. The disease was incredibly specific. It only affected Valorian brain structures. It was harmless to every other species in the galaxy. But to Valorians, it was the end of everything they were. The missile launched. Faster-than-light technology activated. The missile vanished from Earth's solar system and reappeared 47 light-years away, in orbit around the Valorian homeworld. The payload dispersed into the atmosphere. 4 billion Valorians breathed in the plague within the first hour. On the Valorian homeworld, a teacher named Sylvan was explaining mathematics to her students when she forgot what numbers were. The concept just vanished from her mind. She stared at the board, confused. What were these strange symbols? A doctor performing surgery forgot what organs were for. A pilot in mid-flight forgot how to fly. Parents forgot they had children. The plague ate through Valorian brains like acid, targeting the neural structures responsible for memory, higher reasoning, abstract thought. Within 6 hours, every Valorian on the planet had regressed to the mental state of an animal. They could still walk, still eat, still breathe, but they couldn't think, couldn't remember, couldn't understand that they had once been a civilization. Cities fell silent. Ships drifted unmanned. Farms grew wild. The Valorian Empire ended not with an explosion, but with 4 billion minds simply shutting down. Back in Earth's solar system, the remaining Valorian ships received no response from their homeworld. Panic spread through the fleet. One ship remained combat-capable and commanded by a rational leader. Admiral Krelvin had been in the bathroom when his ship triggered a causality mine. He had missed the temporal effects that drove his bridge crew insane. Now he was in command of the last hope for the Valorian species. He looked at Earth on his view screen. This primitive planet had destroyed his entire civilization in less than 2 hours. All crew, he broadcast. This is Admiral Krelvin. Our people are gone. Our homeworld is silent. These humans have killed everything we ever knew, but we can still hurt them. We have one ship, one chance. We will ram their planet at full speed. We will take as many of them with us as we can. His crew, survivors all agreed. They had nothing left to live for except revenge. The ship turned toward Earth and accelerated to maximum sublight speed. In the command center, alarms blared. Sir, remaining Valorian dreadnought is on a collision course with Earth. General Doyen looked at Dr. G1. The Singularity Lance? She nodded and entered the activation codes. On a platform hidden in the ocean depths of the Pacific, the final weapon powered up. This one looked like a long barrel, 20 meters long, made from materials that seemed to absorb light. Humanity had only built one Singularity Lance. Testing it had required evacuating half the Pacific Ocean. It fired. A micro-black hole, smaller than a pinhead, shot through the water and into space at near light speed. Its gravity was precisely controlled by the ancient technology. It would last exactly 60 seconds before evaporating. Admiral Krelvin saw something impossible on his sensors. A gravity well was forming directly in front of his ship. Then he saw his forward sensors start to distort. Stars were bending around a single point. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered. But it was too late. The black hole touched the front of his ship. The molecular bonds holding the ship together meant nothing against the force of gravity. Metal, electronics, people, everything at the front of the ship was pulled into the singularity and crushed into a point smaller than an atom. The black hole continued through the ship, consuming everything. Admiral Krelvin had time for one last thought. We should never have attacked them. Then he was gone. The micro-black hole continued for 58 more seconds, spinning in space, glowing with Hawking radiation. Ships across the galaxy saw it through their telescopes, a beacon of unnatural light. Then it evaporated, leaving nothing behind but empty space where a Valorian dreadnought had been. In the command center, the weapons officer made her final report. All Valorian vessels destroyed or disabled. No active threats detected. They struck Earth with 10 missiles. Humanity's response was worse. 6 months before the Valorian attack, Dr. G1 stood in front of a secret committee in Geneva. The room was deep underground, shielded from every known form of surveillance. 20 people sat around the table, representatives from every major nation on Earth. On the screen behind her was an image of something that looked like a temple, but it was floating in space, hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. We found it 3 weeks ago, G1 explained. One of our mining drones detected unusual energy signatures. When we investigated, we found this. She clicked to the next image. The inside of the structure was covered in strange writing and mathematical formulas. The civilization that built this died out at least 50,000 years ago. We don't know what they called themselves. We don't know what they looked like. But we know they were incredibly advanced. Another click. They left behind a library, technical specifications, blueprints, and weapons. The committee members leaned forward. One of them, a gray-haired woman from the United Nations, spoke up. What kind of weapons? G1 took a deep breath. The kind that explain why this civilization doesn't exist anymore. She spent the next 2 hours explaining what they had found. Devices that could manipulate time, weapons that could break the laws of physics, technology that could erase matter from existence, Each new revelation made the committee more uncomfortable. "Why are you showing us this?" asked the American representative. "Because we need to decide what to do with it," Jiwan said. "This technology could advance humanity by centuries, or it could destroy us." The debate lasted 3 days. Some wanted to study everything. Others wanted to destroy it all. Finally, they reached a compromise. They would study the peaceful technology, but seal away the weapons. The knowledge was too dangerous, but Dr. Jiwan had already made copies of everything, just in case. Now, 6 months later, that decision was about to save humanity. Or damn it. In the command center, Dr. Jiwan pulled up detailed files on 5 specific weapons. These were the ones that were ready, the ones humanity had secretly built in hidden facilities around the world. The first is called an entropy accelerator, she explained to the gathered military leaders. It speeds up time for whatever it hits. A ship could age 1,000,000 years in seconds. Metal corrodes. Power systems fail. Organic matter turns to dust. She showed them video from a test. A decommissioned submarine had been hit with a low-power version. In 10 seconds, the metal hull had rusted through completely. We have 3 of these devices. One is mounted on a stealth ship. The other 2 are on platforms hidden in the outer solar system. Admiral Minho stared at the screen. That's impossible. You can't just speed up time. The civilization that built this technology thought differently, Jiwan said. They understood things about physics that we're only beginning to grasp. She moved to the next weapon. Quantum disruptors. These make atomic bonds stop working. Matter doesn't explode. It just stops being matter. Everything hit by this weapon dissolves at the molecular level. The test video for this one was even more disturbing. A target drone simply faded from existence like it had never been there at all. We have 12 of these mounted on the moon, Jiwan said quietly. Director Hana spoke up. How did you build all this? Where did you get the resources? I diverted funds from various classified projects, Jiwan admitted. I falsified reports. I used shell companies. If anyone had audited properly, I would have been arrested for treason. Why? General Doyen asked. Jiwan met his eyes. Because I studied what happened to the civilization that created these weapons. They were peaceful. They never thought they would need weapons like this. Then someone attacked them. By the time they started building defenses, it was too late. I didn't want that to happen to us. She continued to the third weapon. Causality mines. These explode backwards through time. If a ship triggers one, it experiences being destroyed before it actually arrives. The psychological effects are severe. There was no test video for this one. The technology was too unpredictable. We've placed 50 of these throughout the solar system, on likely approach routes for hostile forces. The fourth weapon made everyone in the room feel sick. Neural plague, Jiwan said. This is biological warfare taken to its extreme. We can design a disease that targets specific brain structures in specific species. We use tissue samples from every alien species we've encountered to build a database. You've met other aliens? Someone asked in shock. 3 species, all peaceful, Hana interjected. We kept it quiet. Didn't want to cause panic, Jiwan continued. The plague can be delivered via missile using faster-than-light technology we copied from the ancient designs. It can reach anywhere in the galaxy almost instantly. The final weapon was the most terrifying. Singularity Lance. This creates a controlled micro-black hole and fires it. The black hole consumes everything in its path. We can control where it goes and how long it lasts before it evaporates. She closed the presentation. These 5 weapons are ready right now. We have maybe a dozen more in various stages of development, but they're not complete. The room was silent for a long moment. Finally, a Russian general spoke. If we use these weapons, what happens to the Valorians? They die, Jiwan said simply. All of them. Not just their military. Their entire civilization. That's genocide, someone protested. General Doyen stood up. They killed 60 million of us in an hour. They gave us 12 hours to surrender or face extinction. They started this war with the intent to erase humanity. Are we supposed to show them mercy they didn't show us? Yes, the protester argued. That's what makes us better than them. Being better won't matter if we're extinct, Admiral Minho said coldly. The argument started again. People shouted. Some wanted to use only conventional weapons to show restraint. Others wanted to unleash everything. Dr. Jiwan watched them fight and felt a deep sadness. She had built these weapons hoping they would never be needed. She had imagined them as deterrents. Something to make hostile aliens think twice before attacking Earth. She had never imagined having to actually use them. But as she looked at the death tolls scrolling across a nearby screen, she realized there was no choice. Seoul, Tokyo, New York. The numbers kept climbing as rescue workers found more bodies. 60 million. 65 million. 70 million. How many people would die in the next 12 hours if they did nothing? General Doyen raised his hand for silence. We're wasting time. The authorization has been entered. Dr. Jiwan, begin the activation sequence. Wait, said a young lieutenant who had been quiet until now. His name was Junho. His uniform indicated he was from Seoul. If we do this, we can't take it back. Once these weapons are fired, we become the monsters. We're already monsters, General Doyen said. Every species in the galaxy has the capacity for violence. The only question is whether we're strong enough to protect ourselves. The Valorians made their choice when they launched those missiles. Now we make ours. He turned to G1. How long until the weapons are ready to fire? The entropy accelerator is ready now. The quantum disruptors need another 30 minutes to charge. The causality mines are already in position. The neural plague needs an hour to prepare the payload. The singularity lance is ready. Then we start in 30 minutes, Doyen said. We hit them with everything at once. Fast and overwhelming. We don't give them time to retreat or regroup. Director Hana pulled up a tactical display. The Valorian fleet is holding position at the edge of the solar system. They're confident. They think we're helpless. Good, Admiral Minho said. Overconfidence kills. Dr. Jiwan walked to a secure terminal and began entering commands. Deep in hidden facilities around the world and throughout the solar system, her weapons came fully online. Targeting systems locked onto the Valorian fleet. Countdown timers appeared on every screen. 29 minutes. A medical officer spoke up quietly. The Valorian fleet has about 300 ships. Intelligence suggests each ship has a crew of around 2,000. That's 600,000 people. Plus whatever population is on their homeworld, Jiwan added. The neural plague will reach them. Probably around 4 billion inhabitants based on our estimates. The room went quiet again as people did the math. They were about to kill billions. General Doyen looked at each person in the room. Anyone who wants to leave, leave now. Anyone who stays is complicit in what happens next. I won't judge either choice. No one moved. Then it's decided, Doyen said. He pulled up the image of his family on his personal screen. His wife smiling. His daughters laughing. All dead now. They wanted to erase us, he said softly. Instead, we'll erase them. And every species in this galaxy will learn a simple lesson. Humanity can be your friend or your nightmare. The choice is theirs. But if they choose to be our enemy, we will become a nightmare they'll never wake up from. The countdown continued. 25 minutes, 20, 15. Dr. Jiwan watched the numbers fall and wondered if she would be remembered as humanity's savior or its greatest monster. Probably both, she thought. 10 minutes. All stations report ready, came the call from the weapons officer. On my mark. General Doyen said, 5 minutes. Humanity held its breath. 1 minute. Mark, said General Doyen. The weapons fired. They struck Earth with 10 missiles. Humanity's response was worse. 3 days after the battle, the command center was still running on emergency power. General Doyen sat at the conference table, reviewing casualty reports. The final count from the Valorian attack was 73 million dead. 73 million people who had been going about their normal lives when the sky turned to fire. But humanity had killed billions in response. Director Hana walked in carrying a data tablet. Her face was gray with exhaustion. We're receiving transmissions from other species, she said. Dozens of them. They all watched what happened. What are they saying? Doyen asked. Hana pulled up the first message. It was from something called the Tellurian Collective, a peaceful alliance of 17 different species. The message had been translated into Korean. People of Earth. We witnessed the Valorian attack on your world. We witnessed your response. We offer humanitarian aid, medical supplies, and engineers to help rebuild your cities. Please accept our assistance, Doyen frowned. That seems generous. Read between the lines, Hana said. They're terrified. Every species in the galaxy just watched us destroy the Valorian Empire in 2 hours. They're helping us because they're afraid of what we'll do if they don't. More messages came in over the next few hours. The Kelvin Republic offered food supplies. The Drathan Union offered construction materials. The Sisterhood of Six Suns offered medical personnel. Every message was polite. Every message was helpful. And every message carried the same underlying tone of fear. Admiral Minho arrived at the command center with news from the fleet. We've recovered survivors from 3 Valorian ships. About 800 individuals total. They're requesting asylum. Asylum? Doyen asked in surprise. Their homeworld is gone in any meaningful sense, Minho explained. The neural plague didn't kill the population, but it destroyed their minds. The survivors we found were in deep space doing patrol missions. They're the only Valorians left who can still think. What do they want? To live, Minho said simply. They understand what happened. They know their commanders made a terrible mistake. They're asking if humanity will spare them. Doyen thought about this. Then he made a decision. Give them a planet. Something far from Earth, uninhabited, let them start over. But they stay monitored for the next 100 years. That's surprisingly merciful. Hana observed. I'm tired of killing. Doyen said quietly. Lieutenant Junho was working in the ruins of Seoul. The city he had grown up in was gone. Where buildings had stood, there were now only twisted metal and broken concrete. Recovery teams were still pulling bodies from the rubble. His brother Taehyun had been working in an office building downtown. They had found his body 2 days ago. Now Junho was helping distribute supplies at a refugee center. Thousands of people who had lost everything were sheltering in temporary structures. And this was just Seoul. 9 other cities around the world looked exactly the same. A ship landed nearby. It was clearly alien, with a design unlike anything human. Junho tensed, hand moving to his sidearm. But the aliens who emerged were small, barely a meter tall, with fur and large eyes. They were carrying crates of medical supplies. We are from the Kelvin Republic, one of them said through a translation device. We bring aid. Junho watched as they unloaded their ship. The aliens were efficient and helpful, but they wouldn't make eye contact. They flinched whenever a human came near them. He realized they were afraid. These small, peaceful aliens were terrified of humans. Thank you for the supplies, Junho said carefully. The alien nodded quickly and hurried back to its ship. Within minutes, they were gone. Another survivor, a woman named Unji who had lost her family in the blast, came over. Did you see how scared they were? Yes, Junho said. We did this, Unji said. We made them afraid. We destroyed an entire species to save ourselves. They destroyed 10 of our cities first, Junho reminded her. I know, and I'm glad we fought back. But I watched the video of what our weapons did. Those Valorian colony ships had children on them. And we erased them from existence. Junho had no answer to that. In her laboratory, Dr. Ji-won was destroying data. She was systematically erasing every blueprint, every formula, every piece of information about the Prometheus weapons. Dr. Minseo found her there. What are you doing? Getting rid of the evidence, Ji-won said. If anyone ever audits what I did, I want as little proof as possible. Ji-won, you saved humanity. She laughed bitterly. Did I? Or did I just guarantee that humans will be feared and hated for the next 1,000 years? She pulled up casualty estimates from the Valorian homeworld. 4 billion people, Minseo. 4 billion minds destroyed. Children who will never learn to read. Artists who will never create. Scientists who will never discover. All gone because I built a plague that ate their brains. They attacked us, Minseo said. Their military attacked us, Ji-won corrected. Not their civilians. Not their children. But we didn't care. We killed them all. She sat down heavily. I've been reviewing the data from the colony ships we destroyed. Do you know what we found? One of them was a medical vessel. It had 12,000 wounded Valorians from previous wars. Non-combatants, and we erased them in an instant. Minseo put a hand on her shoulder. You made an impossible choice in an impossible situation. That doesn't make it right, Ji-won whispered. 1 week after the attack, General Doyen visited the Seoul Memorial Site. The city was still mostly ruins, but people had started building a monument to the dead. It was a wall 300 meters long made of black stone. Carved into that stone were 73 million names, every person who had died in the 10 attacks. Doyen walked along the wall until he found the section he was looking for. There, carved in precise letters, were 3 names: Kim Sora, Kim Yuna, Kim Haeun, his family. He stood there for a long time, just looking at their names. He thought about Yuna's 7th birthday party 2 months ago, about Haeun's laugh when he chased her around the house, About Sora's smile when she brought him coffee in the morning. All gone. For the first time since the attack, General Doyen cried. He stood in front of that wall and wept for everything he had lost. When he finally composed himself, he found a group of civilians watching him. They recognized his uniform, knew who he was. One of them approached carefully. It was an old man who had survived the blast. "General," the man said, "I wanted to thank you. If you hadn't ordered that counterattack, we would all be slaves now. Or dead." Doyen looked at him. "I killed billions of people." "They killed our families first," the old man said. "You did what you had to do. Does that make it right?" The old man thought about this. "I don't know. Maybe there was no right choice. Maybe there was only the choice that let some of us survive." After the old man left, Doyen returned to the memorial. He placed his hand on Sora's name. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I couldn't save you. And I'm sorry for what I did to save everyone else." Back at the command center, a new message arrived. This one was different from the others. It came from something called the Galactic Assembly, a council of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. Director Hana read the message to the remaining leadership. "Humanity of Earth, we have watched your conflict with the Valorian Empire. We have seen what you are capable of. We are prepared to offer you membership in the Galactic Assembly, with full rights and protections. However, we must first address the weapons you used. We request a meeting to discuss the future of humanity's place in the galaxy." "It's a trap," Admiral Minho said immediately. "They're going to try to force us to disarm." "Or worse," Hana said. "Some of these species are powerful enough to destroy Earth if they decide we're too dangerous to exist." General Doyen read the message again. "We'll attend the meeting, but we'll be honest about what we have and what we're capable of. No more secrets. That's risky," Hana said. "Everything is risky now," Doyen replied. "The galaxy knows we can destroy species. Hiding it won't help. Our only choice is to show them we can also choose mercy." He stood and looked at the people around him. All of them exhausted, all of them traumatized by what they had witnessed and participated in. "We won the war," he said, "but we lost something too. We lost our innocence. We lost the ability to pretend we're not dangerous. Every species in the galaxy is afraid of us now. We need to prove to them and to ourselves that we can be more than weapons." Director Hana asked the question everyone was thinking. "Can we?" Doyen looked at the memorial site on one of the screens. 73 million names carved in stone. Then he thought about the billions of Valorians who would never have their names recorded anywhere. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but we have to try." That night Doyen wrote a letter. It was addressed to Sora even though she would never read it. "My love," he wrote, "I saved humanity today. Or I damned it. I still don't know which. I used weapons that should never have been built. I killed billions to save millions. Was it worth it? Will Yuna and Hayun's deaths mean something? Or did I just create more death to balance the scales? I hope you can forgive me. I hope, wherever you are, you understand that I did what I thought was right. And I hope that someday humanity will prove worthy of the sacrifice we all made." They struck Earth with 10 missiles. Humanity's response was worse. 1 year after the Valorian attack, Earth looked different. The 10 cities were being rebuilt, but they would never be the same. Where Seoul had stood, there was now a new city rising from the ruins. But the memorial remained, those 73 million names carved in stone, a permanent reminder of what had been lost. Ambassador Sujin stood before the Galactic Assembly, representing humanity for the first time. The assembly hall was enormous, with seats for representatives from over 200 different species. Some were humanoid, others were completely alien, floating in tanks or existing as pure energy fields. All of them were watching her with a mixture of curiosity and fear. The speaker of the assembly, a being called Tarvin from a species that looked like living crystals, addressed her formally. "Ambassador Sujin of Earth, you have been called here to answer questions about humanity's actions during the Valorian conflict." Sujin nodded. "I'm ready to answer." "Did humanity possess weapons of mass destruction before the Valorian attack?" "Yeah," Sujin said honestly. "We found ancient technology and built weapons from it. We kept them secret." A murmur went through the assembly. The speaker continued. "Why did you hide this from the galaxy?" "Because we were afraid," Sujin said simply. "We were afraid of what other species would think. We were afraid of being attacked. We were afraid of ourselves, and now, after you've used these weapons, Sujin took a breath. Now we understand that fear was justified. We are dangerous. Every species here should understand that about humans. We have the capacity for terrible violence when pushed to the edge. You threaten us? A representative from the Drathan Union asked angrily. No, Sujin said firmly. I'm being honest with you. The Valorians saw us as weak. They thought they could destroy us without consequences. They were wrong. We want to make sure no one else makes that mistake. But we also want to prove that we can be trusted, that we can be partners in peace. The speaker asked the question everyone was thinking. Can you be trusted? You destroyed an entire civilization. They destroyed 10 of our cities first, Sujin pointed out. They gave us 12 hours to surrender or face extinction. We defended ourselves by committing genocide, someone said. Sujin felt anger flash through her, but she controlled it. Yes, we did. And every human who was involved in that decision carries the weight of it. General Doyen, who gave the order, visits the memorial every day. Dr. Jiwan, who built the weapons, barely sleeps. We know what we did. We know it was terrible.
But what would you have done?
Would you have surrendered? Would you have let your species be enslaved or destroyed? The assembly hall was silent. Finally, Tarvin spoke again. Humanity faces a choice. You can keep your terrible weapons and remain isolated from the galactic community, feared and alone. Or you can destroy those weapons and join us as equals. Sujin had expected this. We've already destroyed the physical weapons, she said. Every Prometheus device has been dismantled, but the knowledge remains. We can't unlearn what we know. If another threat comes, we could rebuild them in months. That is not acceptable, Tarvin said. It's the only option, Sujin replied. We will not make ourselves helpless. We learned that lesson when the Valorians attacked, but we're willing to place our research under international oversight. Representatives from any species can monitor our facilities. We'll share the defensive technology we found. We'll work with you, but we will not be defenseless. The assembly debated for hours. Some species wanted Earth quarantined. Others argued for acceptance. Some proposed sending a peacekeeping force to occupy Earth. That last suggestion made Sujin smile coldly. I would strongly advise against trying to occupy Earth. You saw what happened to the last species that attacked us. Finally, after 3 days of debate, the assembly reached a decision. They would accept humanity into the galactic community under specific conditions. Human weapons would be monitored. Earth would share its technology, and every human vessel would carry observers from other species. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Back on Earth, the UN was holding a referendum. Every human on the planet got to vote on a simple question. Should humanity permanently destroy all research and knowledge related to the Prometheus weapons? Director Hana argued for yes. These weapons are too dangerous. The temptation to use them will always be there. We should destroy everything and start over. Dr. Jiwan surprisingly argued for no. The galaxy knows what we can do. The deterrent exists whether the weapons exist or not. If we destroy the knowledge and something worse than the Valorians comes, we'll be helpless. General Doyun, who had resigned from military service but was asked to speak at the debate, offered a different perspective. I gave the order to use those weapons, he said. I carry the responsibility for billions of deaths, so I understand the weight of what we're voting on. But I'll tell you what I learned. The weapons aren't the problem. The willingness to use them is the problem. He paused, looking at the camera. We can destroy every blueprint, every formula, every piece of data, but we can't destroy the fact that humans are capable of building these things. We can't destroy our capacity for violence. The only thing we can control is our choice of when and how to use that capacity. So what's your vote? Someone asked. I vote to keep the knowledge but seal it away, Doyen said, with strict controls and international oversight, because someday humanity might need those weapons again, and I'd rather we have the choice than not have it. The vote was close. 51% voted to destroy everything. 49% voted to keep it. The knowledge was destroyed in a ceremony broadcast across the galaxy. Dr. Jiwan personally deleted the last files, tears streaming down her face as she erased years of work. But everyone knew copies existed. Everyone knew the information had been shared with certain governments, stored in secret locations, backed up in ways that couldn't be traced. The ceremony was symbolic, not practical. But symbols mattered. 10 years after the attack, Captain Junho commanded the exploration vessel Soul's Remembrance. The ship was named after his home city. the first city destroyed by the Valorians. His crew was diverse. Half human, half alien. They had been exploring the outer reaches of the galaxy together for 2 years, mapping new systems and making contact with undiscovered species. Today, they had found something interesting. A planet showing signs of early civilization. Radio waves indicated the species was on the verge of space travel. Should we make contact? His first officer asked. She was from the Kelvin Republic, one of the small aliens who had brought supplies to Earth after the attack. Junho looked at the planet on his screen. Not yet. Let's observe for a while. Learn about them. Make sure they're ready. One of the human crew members, a young woman named Era, spoke up. Captain, remember the protocol. We're supposed to assess threat level. Junho knew what she meant. After the Valorian War, humanity had developed strict rules for first contact. Every new species was evaluated for potential danger. Run the assessment, Junho ordered. But we're not making any decisions based on fear. The analysis came back an hour later. The species, which they were calling the Vrin, showed signs of aggressive territorial behavior. They had nuclear weapons. Their history included several major wars. Threat level moderate, Era reported. Recommendation is to monitor but avoid direct contact. Junho thought about this. The Vrin sounded a lot like humans had been 100 years ago. Dangerous, territorial, armed with weapons they barely understood. No, he said. We're going to try something different. He composed a message. A simple one, in basic mathematical language that any species could potentially decode. Hello. We are humans from Earth. We have been where you are. We know what it's like to be afraid of the unknown. We're not here to threaten you. We're here to say that you're not alone in the universe. When you're ready to meet us, we'll be here. He sent the message and ordered the ship to move to a distant orbit. That's it? Ara asked. We're just going to wait? Yes, Junho said. We're going to give them time. Just like we wish someone had given us time before the Valorians attacked. His Kelvin first officer looked at him with what might have been approval. You're not what I expected, Captain. When I first met humans, you all seemed like warriors, dangerous and unpredictable. We are dangerous, Junho said honestly. Every species is. But we're trying to be more than that. 3 months later, the Vrin responded. A simple message in return. Hello. We are afraid. But we are curious. Can we trust you? Junho smiled. They asked the right question. He sent back. Trust must be earned. Let's start with talking. No weapons. No threats. Just conversation. The first meeting happened a month after that. A Vrin shuttle came up to orbit, nervous and defensive. Junho met them with a small crew, unarmed, in a neutral meeting space. The Vrin were reptilian, covered in scales, with large eyes and 4 arms. They looked terrified. You're the humans, their leader said through a translator. The species that destroyed the Valorians. Yes, Junho said. That's us. Should we be afraid? Junho thought about how to answer. He could have said no, tried to be reassuring. But he remembered General Doyen's words about honesty. Yes and no, he said. You should understand that humans can be dangerous when threatened.